G'day and welcome to another Roo rental car review. Now we're in Cleveland, Ohio today and we have a very special review. This is America's top selling car and it has been for 4 decades. This is the Ford F-150, the king of the titans, the king of the jungle, the biggest one of all. So this will be a fun review because it's going through not only the most popular car in America, but also too a pickup truck, which I don't get too many of. So this was kind of a fun little treat. This particular model, it's a 2019. It is what they call the super cab. It's got 4 wide opening doors, but it is the short bed. Does come equipped with the optional 5.0 litre engine V8. So your typical good size American truck, and as you can see from the graphics, it is a 4x4. So I'll focus on the styling first. Now everything on this is just large. Like Ford just went crazy with the styling on this, with making everything look bigger, badder. But to their defense too, so have Chevy and Dodge too. So the styling on this is based on the Tonka truck concept that Ford released many years ago as a concept, and it has that kind of blockish Lego brick style to it. Everything's kind of stacked up. There's not many round corners. It's all very squared edge. You've got this massive grille here, which is like the Ford corporate grille from a number of years ago. The headlights are kind of wrapped around it. Giant chrome grille and bumpers. And then I actually really like this little detail, which is the swept up side window. It kind of breaks the styling a little bit from being too blockish, but adds a bit of aggressiveness and also adds to the visibility. Kind of got the side slabbed side panels. It's all very upright, and then the back is just like the front, kind of just all very squared off, very blockish. But it's attractive enough as a truck. So we're going to go inside, we'll have a look around, and we've got the key fob here. It's just the typical switchblade key. Alright, unlock it. Now Ford still does carry on offer the little touch pads to get into the vehicles. Now they wanted to get rid of this a number of years ago, saying it was kind of outdated, and people always responded saying, hey, we love those, and it's the only reason I bought a Ford, so Ford has kept them. So we'll go in and have a look. Now for me, the immediate thing I noticed was the kind of the darkness and drabness of the interior. Now I've been in the Ram, and the Ram is a beautiful, beautiful interior. It's got, you know, leather stitching on the dash and soft touch materials, fun colors. You know, you can get colors kind of in a light beige and brown. This is all very gray and black. It's very industrial. Which may be more befitting for the truck's purpose. You know, it's not supposed to coddle you, it's supposed to last the test of time. I don't know if the Rams will do that, but that was the immediate thing I noticed, was it looks a bit drab. Now getting inside, is a bit of a step up. There's handles here to help you out. I can kind of slide right in, but my parents, who are a little bit elderly, had a bit of trouble here. So shutting the door. Pretty good sound insulation here from the outside world. Typical Ford beep. And we do have the radio here, which is the Ford My Touch system. It's the latest generation, and it is very responsive. It's very good. As you can see, just immediately connected to the phone here. But it's very quick to respond to touches and going through menus, adjusting, you know, settings for the sound and such. It's actually very easy and responsive, which was something that could not be said about the original My Touch. That was very finicky. It would kind of freeze, and also too, just the way it was laid out was very confusing. And then the radio is controlled below by regular radio button, volume knob. So you got volume and tune there, and then you've got your presets there with traditional buttons. Now, the look of it, once again, very industrial, very drab, reminiscent of Ford from about 10 years ago. this was very common in the Focus and the Fusion and some of the other models. It was just kind of this stacked up look of buttons, and it's a bit messy looking, a little confusing. And same goes for the ventilation. You know, you got your knob here for the fan speed and temperature. That's pretty straightforward. But as far as vent setting, yeah, it's all these buttons, and they're kind of all stacked up upon each other, and it's kind of hard to decipher at a glance. And it is reminiscent of Ford from a generation ago. It's not the most attractive. It does the job. It's industrial, but yeah, it's the RAM definitely feels a bit more opulent. Got two USBs, power outlet there. Got the knob for 4x4, and you've got this weird little storage space, which, quite frankly, it's nice with the little rubber matting here, but doesn't really hold a whole lot. And maybe on the higher trims, you know, you could put like the remote key in there and such, but I can't see it really holding a whole lot. It's too small for even like a CB radio or anything. Just trying to think of the F-150's purpose. Now moving to the display, instrument display, kind of the same thing once again. Very, very straightforward, kind of generic, not doesn't stand out. You know, very plain gauges. And what I experienced too is during the day, especially if you're wearing sunglasses, they're so deeply recessed into this under this pod, and they're so kind of bland looking. They end up kind of being faded out in the sunlight, so you can't really read them with sunglasses on. The center menu is very traditional Ford 2 from a generation ago. This wouldn't be out of place in a Focus or a Fiesta or even a Fusion, but you do have, and John Davis from Motor Week would be very happy, you have a full instrument display with transmission, temperature, oil pressure gauges, as well as your standard fuel and temperature gauge. So going to the steering wheel, once again, same thing, a lot of buttons. You do go through the menus in the center control here with this kind of center pod. You got your cruise control, volume, but once again, it's a bit busy looking. Got your traditional shift knob. You can control the transmission through manumatic mode. With this control, it seems a little gimmicky on a pickup truck, but I guess it would be good if you're towing especially. So it works. It's in a bit of a weird spot, and I'm kind of a bit odd. I do rest my hand on these control shifters sometimes, and on these column shifters when I'm driving, and I have bumped the button accidentally just by resting it there. You do have a drive mode to go into tow mode, snow mode, off-road mode, which is very helpful too. And then same theme here. It's all kind of industrial, just straightforward. You know, nothing fancy, nothing silly. Thing is, it is hard plastics just all around. Got a little storage area there. And that's another thing too, aside from the hard plastics, I don't quite like about the interior, is there's not a lot of storage here. You've got a little tiny shelf here that doesn't do a whole lot. The glove box is very shallow. The door panel storage areas are very shallow as well. I mean, you can fit a cup in there and some papers, but not a whole lot. Now, you do have a pretty good center console here. And this seat actually does flip up to allow 6 seats in this truck. So that's actually a nice thing too. Visibility all around is great. I mean, you have a huge glass area here. It is very easy, and you do have a backup camera as well on this, which is not going to work right now because we're not running. Moving to the back, and a big giant release lever. Kind of an odd design too. It's not an actual real door handle that you pull out. It's kind of this flap that sticks up. Back seat is just massive in this thing. You've got 2 sets of cup holders down here. Now, I did have some backseat passengers, and they did say that is a bit of a reach when you're sitting up here to reach for these cup holders. Getting up is a bit tricky too for elderly, but you got this handle to hold on to. But there is a lot of leg room here. Just massive. And then moving to the bed. So it's just a traditional release lever, there's nothing too tricky. The camera is inset there, the rear view camera. Now the tailgate does lock when you lock the doors. A couple of things I did notice is this is a short bed, so it's not exactly the longest, but that's fine. You can buy a longer bed as well for this that extends the wheelbase, I think, to 170 inches and the length of the vehicle to 220 inches, I believe. You can hold me to those numbers. But one thing I did notice is that there's no easy way to get up. I mean, there's a side step here, and you have to hoist yourself up. Or if you're tall enough like me, you can just step up onto the truck bed. Truck bed itself is, you know, for a short bed, it's long enough. It's also it's wide enough. The wheel wells aren't imposing enough, aren't too imposing. But yeah, to get up on this truck, there's no side steps integrated into the bumper. The bumper itself is kind of a side step. This does not have the man handle that you can kind of hoist yourself up with. And I know with the GM ones, they now have these advanced tailgates that can actually flip down into stairs. So that is a little tricky, and there's a step up here. Now the other thing I noticed too is just the tie downs. I'm going to look at this one right here. They're down low, which, you know, isn't uncommon. But the thing we noticed too is that they've got sharp edges. Most times it's kind of roundish. You know, we could see this grinding away at a rope holding things down. So there's one on each side of the bed. And also in the back there's one as well. And then you do have a cargo lamp as well. That's controlled by a switch near the headlight switch on the dash. And then lastly, we'll just focus on the engine as well. Now, while I'm working on that, one thing I do want to mention too is that this has a power-operated parking brake, which I'm not a fan of these, and I'm certainly not a fan on a pickup truck. I really would like a traditional parking brake on this. It seems a bit gimmicky on this truck, and also too, it's easy to leave it on, and yeah, it creates a bit of jerkiness when you pull away. But I was going to say, while I'm working on trying to figure out this hood, because I've had a bit of trouble with it during my time with it, the 4x4 system works pretty effectively. There's not a lot of four-wheeling you can do in northeastern Ohio, but I did take it on some dirt paths, and it seems effective enough. Had enough grip. Underneath the hood is a 5.0 litre engine. This is an optional engine. It does come with a 10-speed automatic transmission, which is very smooth, very responsive. And the engine itself has 390 horsepower. Feels like it's got plenty of torque on the low range, good for towing. And yeah, it's a good power horse. And we recorded just unscientifically with a stopwatch about a 0 to 60 time of 7.0 seconds. So anyway, that is the Ford F-150. Sorry, Ford. America's most popular car, and yeah, I'm probably not the target buyer, but I do appreciate it for what it is. I've really enjoyed it, and hope to see you for the next car review. Ciao.